Hi, I'm Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we meet the movers and shakers in the business industry. Today, joining me is CJ Wheeler. She's the founder of Book It CJ. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's so great to be with you, Melissa. It's a real honor to be here with you.
And I know we were talking about it just before we started the call, but the interview that we're seeing a little bit of a shift out there, in the world, with just culturally and everything, where we're seeing people kind of start talking a little bit more about their faith and about, God, and shifting like what their priorities are a little bit from where they were before. I know we mentioned the pandemic, different things that we have gone through have kind of led people to maybe find their way or, find a faith in their life or something or a different purpose in their life. So for you, faith is something that's very important, right? Can you share a little bit about your journey? Sorry.
Yeah, it has been a journey, that's for sure. So I worked in media for 20 plus years before God gifted me with, and I say that quite literally, I had never thought about going out on my own or being an entrepreneur, but God gifted me with this business and it has been going strong since 2014. And basically, in a nutshell, what I do is I help people get on TV and radio and podcasts like this lovely one. I normally don't give interviews, but because you hit the two hot button areas that I feel very passionate about and think I might have something to say, which is how faith is involved in your business and how that can make your life just so much better and so much easier. Um, so I always say and tell people that I may be the person that is like the front for Book It CJ. However, God is my CEO. God is the CEO of this company, has been from the beginning. It was totally his idea and creation. And I'll get into that later if you're interested. But everything from like, I didn't even have a website at the beginning. I didn't have business cards for the first 3 years of being inside, doing a Book It CJ. Because I didn't have to. God just kept delivering and delivering and delivering, client after client after client. And, if you've noticed, Melissa, I know if you think about your life and when your struggles have really been hard, for most people, when you get super ambitious or your ego is in charge or that kind of thing, and you're trying to control things and make things work, that's when your ego is replacing God. So I'm probably the least ambitious person you would ever like run into. An interesting story, a husband of a friend of mine who has her own show asked me, compared me to another DC PR firm, another concierge DC PR firm, and was like, this guy has 2 houses already. He's got the top clients that he's doing. All the Fox talent is all being repped by him. He's got 10 people that work beneath him, and I just go, gosh, I can't think of a more miserable existence than being so ambitious in this housing market, having 2 mortgages like coming down on you. Having to manage 10 people. When do you have time to just go outside and enjoy nature, enjoy God, have peace? So I told him, I said, well, that is wonderful for that person. And who's also having a ton of struggles in his life. And I said, that's fine if that's the ambition that he wants, but I like to have God in control. I truly love to just sit and watch and see who he delivers into my life and into my lap. And some of the things that have happened in doing this PR independent thing, have just been phenomenal. Like if I had chased after them, they would have never happened. Like if you just listen and if you just let go and let God, as it says, but if you just let go and kind of, surrender to God, he will deliver so much prosperity to you. It's written in the Bible. He wants to prosper you. If you are if you're doing it. So a lot of people get confused about like, oh, well, does this mean I just sit on my butt and don't do anything? Do I just, they have a hard time like balancing, as did I when I was first starting this kind of mindset of how to run this business or not run this business. They just have this mindset of, well, if I just sit in my room and I do nothing, then everything will come to me. And that's not how it is. The surrender comes in the not putting your ego, not putting your desires, not being like, I have to rep the president of the United States, and if I don't, I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to walk around with that misery in my head, right? So what I do, I don't solicit clients. Clients find me, and most all of them are conservative Christians or veterans. That's who I like to spend my God-given time helping get in media, since mainstream media really likes to keep those people off the media. So that's who I like to help. Are mainstream media, are not mainstream media people, but people who have been suppressed or overlooked or, you know, just aren't getting the attention and due that they deserve. So Christian authors, people like Peter Navarro. I don't know if you've seen The Chosen, but Dallas Jenkins was a client for a
Yeah.
little while, right at the beginning of season 1. So it's just been, like I said, Clay Clark during the whole entire COVID to the 2020. In 2020, before COVID hit really strong, Clay was a client and nobody knew who he was. And then within the time, this is so God, within the time that I knew Clay, that's when he started doing the conferences. And then for the next 3 years or 4 years, me and my team ran the media rooms for his conferences with him and General Flynn. And so all those speakers, tons of them became clients. So again, it's, I don't know how to stress, like my keeping my hands off uh, allowed God to do stuff that I could never, ever have even dreamed of. And it's been that way. So I kind of went from being in DC in 2012, 13, all the way to 2019, and dealing mostly with DC people doing, thought provoking and think tank kind of content, to in 2020, when it mattered, God shifted me right over to the Patriot movement and to people like Clay Clark and investigators and people who were being suppressed by mainstream media, people who were doing the actual investigating of what was going on, with COVID. So
Amazing.
I said a whole lot. I'm sure you have questions.
Yes, no, but that's amazing because I really do share, like, I remember just wanting something so bad. And at the time, I was like, why didn't I get that big job? Or why didn't I get, because I was, a news reporter. That's what I was doing. I was in Miami and I wanted to be in the Miami market, but I had to go to the smaller towns. And then
Right.
I got burned out and, I got bypassed for the bigger, like, anchor jobs or something because I need to go to the smaller area. I kept kind of not getting what I wanted, but then in the end, and I kind of just said, well, you know what? I guess this just isn't meant to happen right now. And the same thing, when I least expected it, I was kind of just doing more media relations and then some small reporting in my hometown. And then I got an opportunity like later in life when people think, that you know what I mean? When you're like an on air person, it's usually like when you're younger and stuff. So it's interesting though, but yeah, when the timing is right, and again, it was people who were more faith based, and it
Right.
was interviewing people who had, things to say against the current of what was happening, but they had been suppressed and not able to say what they felt, or and a lot of people were in that position. So
Right. I totally relate to you on the anchor thing. I jumped out and tried to do that like in the 90s and whatever. And God would not open that door. It would not open up. And the door that opened up constantly was conservative talk radio, talk radio. And so that was just the direction that the universe, God, pushed me. That was where, and when you look at your life kind of backwards, you're like, oh, I see the plan now. Like, I totally didn't understand when I was in between all those jobs, and I was like, why, what are you doing with my life? But I just, I believe in the bigness of God, and I believe in that he is infinite and all knowing, and he can come up with things that my little mind cannot conceive of. We do not have the same thoughts. We do not have the same timeline. We do not, I am here to serve. So on the ambition thing, I just really think that your life becomes lighter. The worry and the fear and the sadness go away. I had a really, really good friend of mine just yesterday found out that he did not get a job, that he had went to his, like, did 3 different interviews. It looked like he was totally going to get it. And the whole time I had been telling, because he was basically telling everyone, I've got this job. I've got the job. The job is mine. And I was like, ooh, dang, that's going to be an ego blow if it doesn't happen. And you need to prepare yourself for any circumstance, right? It could happen. I'm not doubting that. But then again, it could not happen. And how are you prepared inside yourself? Like, where is your bottom floor going to be on how far I'm going to go down? And is God the support for your bottom floor? Like, are you going to be okay? And so I started counseling him about 3 days into when he was waiting on the conclusion of whether he got the job or not. And I kept saying, I just know this is true in life. And I'm old enough now to have this enough experience to know this is true. If God wants it, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And if God doesn't want it, there's nothing that you can do as a human to make it happen. Like, you just can't. You're just going to spin your wheels and make yourself nuts over it. So he didn't get the job. And the most beautiful thing happened, though. He was totally fine with it. And he moved right on into putting out more resumes and just moving forward and accepting that God had probably saved him from something that wasn't his. It's like the same old adage of when you're running late to a meeting and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. Well, maybe you're avoiding an accident, or maybe you're avoiding, just that God's timing is perfect. So if something is not happening that you're just dying to have happen, then you really need to check yourself, and you need to check your ego, and you need to see if you are letting go and if you are having the faithfulness that God's going to take care of you. And I am such a walking billboard for the fact that this works. I don't chase after clients, as I said. I see who God brings me, and then, I pray about it. All the people I brought on board to my company, we all do the same thing. If people approach, we're always like, okay, we're going to pray on it and listen to God and see what's going on. I have gone maybe 1 month without a client, and that's since 2014. So not missing rent payments, not missing bills, not missing anything. So that drive that we have as humans to control things can be shifted over to doing the work that God gives you. So I don't seek clients. I wait until the client comes to me, and then I pray about it, yes or no. If I say yes, then I know this is God assignment, right? Well, then that's where I need to have ambition and work. That's when I need to, get on the horse and just really try and get them on as many shows as I can, help them with their branding, help them, all of the stuff since you've worked in, media relations. Just use what knowledge I have in my head, where God has dropped me at all these different places, to help elevate them. But this, we live in a really weird, very strange time where people can become celebrities on Instagram, and the ego behind that, and the lack of kind of maybe value or substance, or is it God driven, or is it simply you're getting those clicks and likes, and golly, doesn't that dopamine hit feel really good? But that's also shallow. It's also, what are you doing? Are you just trying to find the next thing, the next shiny thing to promote yourself? So I'm really vested in things that make our community better. That's why I'm full on conservative, full on Trump supporter, full on, just uh, doing things with my God given time, which is so limited, that helps elevate people's success in either selling Christian books or Christian movies or something that helps people have better lives and better communities. That's really where my heart is. So, or better health. That's another thing that has really exploded in my world since 2020 is the medical tyranny fight, the medical freedom fight. That has a lot of energy behind it, especially with what RFK Jr. is doing, everything that's happening in the Trump administration, the fight against big pharma. That is so vital right now with people and their health and just being healthier and giving naturopaths like a chance to be heard, giving them a chance to have some credibility. I cannot tell you how sickening it is for me as a producer, once producer, um, to hear producers or to have heard producers in 2020 who were working at conservative outlets close the door because the doctor who had thousands and thousands of patients that they were healing from COVID, they wouldn't take them because they were a naturopath. They wouldn't even give them a voice. And so that's right where I just slide right in and just go, okay, well, let me get you on 100 different podcasts with all kinds of size of audience so that your voice can be elevated and we can say goodbye to these conservative so-called TV networks that are taking HHS money and they have an agenda to lie and to tell pregnant women to get the vaccine so, their child will die. And there's a lot of people in the conservative media movement, and I won't name names because I'd probably get sued, but they have blood on their hands, without a doubt. Blood on their hands. And I like how they nowadays are kind of just like, oh, yeah, we never did that. Just ignore it. Like, we didn't suppress any voices. Yes, you did. You literally had anchors get up and walk off set when there were people on that they didn't disagree with on either election integrity or on COVID. And it was an interesting time, as I'm sure you know, coming from the media industry, um, to watch the suppression of speech, the
Yes,
suppression of ideas.
absolutely.
Tell me what happened in your world. Like,
Well, that's the good part. I mean, good and bad. When I was doing news, that was probably what, in probably 2002 or whatever. I was working in 10, I got out of it in probably 2009, 2008. So when I was doing news, it was all about you have to give equal voice. You cannot take a side. You have to show both
right,
sides. This is the
right,
code of a journalist and news reporter. I saw that go out the window. Like
yeah,
that doesn't even exist now. I was astonished because I'm thinking people even like a reporter giving your opinion. I mean, if you're out, working for a station,
right,
type of thing. It's different if you're doing your own podcast or something.
right,
If
right.
you're working for a news organization, you're not supposed to criticize somebody, give your own opinion, slander another person. So what I saw was wild. I really was.
Right. And the other thing that happened that I was just absolutely astonished about was so when I worked in media, like we wouldn't even let the sales teams come into the studio because it was like, okay, you're sales and you've got your job and we're content and we have our job. And the only time where that really mixed was on weekend programming when they would try and sell you things on air. But the last thing you ever wanted was your sales team taking over your content because then it just becomes an infomercial, right? Well, what happened during COVID? It was like the sales team of the vaccine just came at the sales and marketing team of the vaccine just came in and was like, okay, all your shows are going to be pro vaccine and all your advertising is going to be pro vaccine. I'll never forget, I went into DC one time to get my hair done. Everybody, now I live in the country, so I live an hour and a half outside of DC, out in the country where people were not paying attention to this nonsense. I mean, yeah, some people were wearing masks and growling at me when I did it, but I went into DC and it was like Robotville. I mean, they were all just doing what was being programmed into them. Um, I mean, I practically almost, I had to lie and tell them I was vaccinated to get my hair done. Like, what world were we living in? How insane was that? But while I was in there and I was sitting in the chair and all the people were masked and I wasn't, because I refused to do that nonsense, because it was a lie. On the radio, while I was sitting there, just within the 10 minutes I was sitting there, there was like 5 commercials about the vaccine, and then the song, and then it was the DJ talking about the vaccine. I'm like, this is some hardcore brainwashing. And
Yeah.
that's what it was. And then I don't know if you experienced this, but I certainly did. Like, there were friends, long-term friends of mine, and I couldn't even express to them, there was no talking to them about, hey, you might want to not get this particular vaccine. And what came out yesterday was that you take 30 years off your life if you got the mRNA vaccine. They had a study of millions of people and said, yeah, if you make it, if you live, you've
Through
probably
it.
cut your life expectancy by 30 years. That's
Wow.
fun, but you couldn't talk to people. And here I
No.
am in the industry of, communicating, but doors that opened that had, like, I had never even considered to be open. I was always looking for, where can I put these doctors who are telling the truth? Where can I put these lawyers that are telling the truth? Where can I put these really investigative journalists that are finding all this information out? Who has a large enough audience that isn't bought and paid for by big pharma? And you know who came into my world? Alex Jones. Large
Wow.
audience, huge following, open mind. And he was just having my clients on over and over and over, and it got to be successful. But then they mock him and they ridicule him. And he is what you would want investigative journalists to be. I mean, he goes there, he tries. It's just the stuff that he's been working on his entire career. And now you see, like, Tucker Carlson and him blending. We're all blending and Elon Musk. We're all blending on the law that's already been defined, which is freedom of speech, which is our constitutional right. All of these things were already decided, but evil, I don't know, psychopaths, communists, whatever, globalists decided that our laws and defined and already stabilized law, none of it mattered. None of it mattered. Everything was up for grabs, including how you lived inside your own home. I mean, the stuff that we lived through, I think we all need, like, deep counseling. And if you don't
Right. The
have
PC.
Jesus,
Yeah.
ooh, I feel bad for you.
PTSD.
Yeah, it's so true. So you were talking before we got on about how the culture had changed after COVID and how it's now becoming hyper Christian, which, I mean, have we been waiting on that forever? And there's
Yeah.
nothing like a struggle, right, to push you in the direction of failure. Or, like, again, if you are bright and you are really looking for answers, you turn to your Bible and you turn to Jesus, you turn to God. That's where you go to find your stability. And because the bottle's not going to give it to you, right? And food is not going to give it to you. Overeating, over drinking, all the other vices, it's just all temporary. God is the only thing
Yeah.
that doesn't change.
No, it's true. And like, yeah, like we're saying, even with music, you can see a little bit of the shift. People are getting a little bit more open to, just like Christian based or, faith based music, programming, just everything. And even the school system, we're seeing a little bit of changing, people fighting back, educator or people who saw what was happening in schools and they're pushing back saying, okay, no, this isn't right. This isn't what we want, and they were afraid too. I've talked to parents that were scared to say what they felt and they were trying to stand up for their kids, and it was definitely interesting.
It was. And it was an incredible thing. I was just talking to a new client about this yesterday, who's a pastor, a reverend. He's a wonderful man. And he was talking about how Oh, how they basically didn't follow any of the rules. They live in California. They gave religious exemptions to everybody they possibly could so that they could avoid all the so-called penalties, which there were. They were penalizing people. But I thought that what he did is just such an epitome of what a Christian should do, which is be courageous, to have the faith that God's going to take care of you, and not walk in fear, because the thing that stops you from being courageous is that fear of repercussion. But it takes a lot to be courageous. It takes a lot to face down your neighborhood, right? And all the gossip and the nasty people. But it really is the people that I know that have laid it all on the line. Dr. Eric Naputi got sued for billions and billions of dollars by the federal government for suggesting, and it was such a pleasure to rep him, just for suggesting people take vitamin D. That was it.
Goodness.
And they sued him for $500 billion, and the government lost. They all because, and the man is probably one of the most brightest light Christians I've ever had the pleasure of being with. And his story, you can find it on my website at bookitcj.com. But he laid it all on the line, and he didn't surrender. And there are just, if you read your Bible, that's what the Bible is all about. They imprisoned Christians. They, killed Jesus. They martyred many Christians over and over and over. And that is what walking in the faith. I mean, we've really got it light nowadays. If the worst thing you're going to do is your neighbor's going to gossip about you, or you might spend some time in jail, but that is nothing compared to what, the gospel tells us that the beginning Christians went through.
When?
And I just want one suggestion, because I know we're getting up on the time wise, but I just want to encourage people to read their Bible, because when I first started reading the Bible, I didn't go from beginning to end or just doing the Gospels or whatever. I literally would have a conversation with God. I was like, God, what does the Bible say about money? Or what does the Bible say about friendship? And what does the Bible tell us about love, and relationship with our neighbors? And so I would pick, like, it was just a really interesting time, because the Bible is alive. God's word is alive. And if you have a query about, something that's really calling on your heart, I would just suggest, you know, I have a great Bible app called, I forgot what the name of it is. Hang on one second. But there's a ton of Bible apps where you can search for a certain word in the Bible, and it'll bring up, or you can do it on, AI and Google and all of that as well. And it'll bring up passages that go right at, what does the Bible say about fasting? I mean, that is just, it's mind-blowing when you ask God a direct question, and then he will just bring you back all of this wealth of information on, this is the best way to live your life. This is the best direction to go in that. It's, the Bible is the best book ever written on how to live your life to the
Live your
best
life.
you
Yeah, and be
possibly can.
happy. Be happy,
Yeah, and have
Yeah,
peace,
exactly.
peace and love and joy. And so, that's pretty much how I use the Bible. And now I'm reading it from cover to cover. And now I'm diving into the Gospels and all the stories. And, The Chosen is a really great place to go. There's a great television show out there right now that goes through all the stories of the Bible, called Drive Through. The drive through of the Gospels, drive through of Acts through Revelations. It's really good. I've been watching that on, I don't know if it's Prime or where it is. I don't know if it's on Netflix. I don't think so. But yeah, anytime I can supplement my knowledge of the Bible, I'm always trying to do that. That is a goal, is to get through
Important
it.
thing. Well, I appreciate you definitely taking the time and joining us today and talking to people about something that's probably the most important thing in our lives. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Melissa. I appreciate the invitation. Any
Hi, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Business Roundup. If you haven't already, please subscribe or follow us on Instagram or YouTube. Also, feel free to leave comments below on topics you'd like us to cover. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bill.